defending the free market, and making the moral case for capitalism. The Justin Moore Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Justin Moore Show, where we make sense of what's going on in this crazy, insane, out of control world. Now, I have a very special show for you guys today. I have a guest on the show, and joining me yet again is John Hunt. He's a pediatric pulmonologist, he's a recovering academic and entrepreneur, and John is also the co-author of the High Ground series with Doug Casey. And today we will be discussing the second book in the series, Drug Lord. John Hunt, welcome to the Justin Moore Show.
Thank you for having me yet again, Justin. You're very kind.
Yes, absolutely. Now, on this new installment of the High Ground series, so here we have Charles Knight. He's returning, but this time he's a drug lord. So he made a lot of money from the last book back in Speculator. Then the government took it all away. So, John, why is he a drug lord? What's going on here?
Well, he's looking for opportunities to morally increase his wealth and produce value for the world in so doing. And he sees the opportunity from the totally screwed up system in the United States for considering and thinking about both pharmaceuticals and the illegal drugs, the drugs that don't have good people, that don't have a whole lot of lobbyists lobbying for them in Washington, which are what are now called illegal drugs. So he saw these opportunities to leverage these distortions in the market and supply what people want and desire and get paid for it.
Yeah, so in the book, I like what the nickname is for the drug that Charles is, dealing out there. And it's nicknamed Naked Emperor. So for people who haven't read the book yet, why is this drug nicknamed the Naked Emperor?
So, it's always hard to discover why street drugs get named what they're named. But in this case, it's a little bit more clear in that, the Naked Emperor story, of course, is that, the emperor's not wearing any clothes, and one little kid actually isn't ingrained in modern thinking enough to lie to himself and say that the emperor is actually wearing clothes like all the adults are saying. He says, hey, that emperor's up there is naked. So Naked Emperor is the nickname for a drug, or street name for a drug called Sibylline that we created. And it is a drug that prevents people from lying to themselves. It allows people to get rid of the programming that has taught them how to lie to themselves over the years. And that's what it does. And can you imagine the value of a drug that prevented you from lying to yourself? And the danger of such a drug to anybody who out there who is making their living or obtaining their power, relying on people lying to themselves in order to do so, which is really a good chunk of the American economy, and certainly the political economy is all based on people lying to themselves.
Right. Okay, so in the book here, you have a drug like the Naked Emperor. I mean, it seems pretty harmless, but the government is doing everything it can to stop Charles Knight and this drug, Naked Emperor. I mean, it's seen as the most dangerous thing ever. So why is a drug like this so dangerous when it seems so great?
I think about the various organizations, the groups, the collectives out there that dominate so much of American society and politics, and how much they do rely on people lying to themselves. So let's go through some of them. So the pharmaceutical companies and the medical system all rely on people believing that politics or central authorities or hospital associations or medical groups are smarter than the individual at making decisions for the individual about medical care. So those kind of people are going to get upset. The smarmy, greased-backed, haired, organized religion big preachers who rake in huge incomes and wear $5,000 suits are going to not want people to say, gee, why am I giving this smarmy $5,000 suit guy my money in the name of Jesus? I mean, would Jesus want me to do that, or would he be throwing over and turning over all of the tables in the in the temple when he saw this kind of thing happening? So the organized religion doesn't want to have it. The politicians and the Federal Reserve, they sure don't want us to become aware of our self-delusions and the lies that they've told us. As we discover that the money that they are forcing us to use is crap, and it's a tool for them to have power and wealth and steal that power and wealth from the individual. So there's organization after organization recognizes that the truth is their enemy, and Naked Emperor is the tool by which the truth is starting to be seen.
Yeah, and you know what you really did a really good job in this book of doing is just showing how the drug war is a complete failure. Basically you got the drug dealers out there, the drug lords. Those guys, they love drugs being illegal. They profit handsomely from drugs being illegal. So, and you show this in the book that once Naked Emperor actually becomes illegal, Charles Knight, he's making a lot more money. I guess, what's the built-in incentives in our medical system today that results in doctors over-prescribing opiates, since you're coming from that field?
Well, I mean, I think I'd question the notion that they're necessarily over-prescribing them. How do we know that they're doing it? Because right now we're getting told that there's an epidemic of narcotic overuse and whatnot. All right, why are they telling us this is an epidemic? Are they just trying to get us prepped up for more and more drug war? Is it propaganda the same way that we get told that we're constantly being told that some future desired enemy is just a horrible human being? I question it. I question whether there's such an epidemic. Now, the reality is that that narcotic and opiate use that is used to the point of addiction can easily displace all other value in life. It can, just ruins families. It's not a good thing. But why is it, if it is really on the rise, why is it on the rise? Well, it's perhaps on the rise because we took out the Taliban in Afghanistan that was suppressing 80% of the production of the opiates. And when we took them out and changed the culture a little bit in Afghanistan, changed the power structure, all of a sudden they're back to being 80% of the production of the opiates in the world, and starts flooding the market. But it stays illegal, so it's expensive. So the suppliers can get it for dirt cheap because the production is so much higher, and they sell it for very high dollars because the drugs are illegal. And that's going to draw all kinds of people into it, and it's going to draw all kinds of people who aren't necessarily good people into that field, and they're making lots of money, so they're going to sell it. Now, there's also, I'll kind of keep going for a second, there's also the abuse of prescription opiates, and those are the ones that just have good lobbyists and make sure their drugs stay legal. Marijuana did not have good lobbyists, and that's why it's Schedule 1 alongside heroin, which is kind of an intriguing concept because cocaine and methamphetamine are Schedule 2. I mean, we got a federal government that formally lists marijuana as more dangerous and destructive than cocaine or methamphetamine. That's just whack.
Yeah, that is. It really is.
So it's just multiple distortions from this foolish, the whole unconstitutional and foolish situation of the federal government controlling what we put in our bodies.
Right, and I agree with that. Now, I guess, another big problem that we have here goes right along with this is here we have, people getting addicted to these opiates, these painkillers, and then, look, they need to still get that sort of feeling, so they go to a cheaper alternative, which is heroin. So then we have, a lot of people going into the black market, which the black market's a lot more dangerous than anything that is above ground. So now you're trusting a drug dealer instead of a doctor. You don't know how much you're getting in the potency. I guess how do we solve this? I guess just legalize all drugs. Is that the way to get over all this? What's going on and all these people dying from drug overdoses?
Well, I think that would be one helpful way. You legalize them. You make all drugs, maybe except for antibiotics, which we can get to, but all drugs should not require prescriptions. Let people get the medications they want to get and seek advice when they want to seek it, and stop trying to control every decision they make as if the government and the doctors always know best, which is just simply not the case. So I would say if you want to make medications cheaper in this country, get rid of the centralized federal mandates that or mechanisms that assure that pharmaceuticals are so commonly requiring prescriptions, a doctor intermediary. Get rid of that and drug prices are going to fall across the board. But as far as the illegal, the transition to heroin, I think you're exactly right, that people will start to have a surgical procedure that they probably didn't need, get put on opiate or narcotic painkillers, but then because the doctors are so much living in fear of their medical boards and their state regulators, they only give them like 8 Percocet pills. And that 8 doesn't do enough, and so then the patient goes back and wants some more, but feels like he's a druggie going back to the doctor asking for more narcotics, and so doesn't do it right away. And then a buddy says, "Hey, look, I got some of this stuff. This will work great." And then they transition into the underground market, which might be more expensive, but you don't have to go to the doctor for it.
Right. I know this concept of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just there's so many distortions from the controls and mandates that get pushed down from a narcissistic and clueless government. And those distortions, people try to fight through them and get what they want and they need despite the government. And that makes them criminals, and it costs them money, and it's just a mess.
Right. And on the face of it, when you look at, people that calling for the legalization of all drugs. Like I used to think way back in the day when I came more from the conservative side of things, like that was crazy talk. Like here's these, whacked out libertarians talking about legalizing everything. But now, I've come around to it, and yeah, it makes completely sense. First off, yeah, you have your body, which you consume. Anything you do, like if you want to harm yourself, that's your right to do that. Why do you need the government to stop you from harming yourself? Like that's idiotic. And then with the drug war in general, all the things that the government has done supposedly try to make the problem go away, it's only intensified it. It's made things worse. All the unintended consequences of the government meddling with making drugs illegal. And now, just to pull one of your quotes from your book here, I thought was fascinating. It says here, a modern government needs to do whatever is necessary. There are too many dangers in the world, too many threats. And you think about that today in the context of, here we have no-knock raids performed by SWAT teams. Guys just breaking in, you're not sure if they're good, they're bad, you don't know what the hell's going on. People getting killed, innocent people. And we have asset forfeiture, where people just get their cars and cash taken, and it's basically guilty until proven innocent. I mean, all this stuff that's going on right now is just crazy. And then I guess reading this book also, it kind of made me think back when I watched the TV series Breaking Bad. Did you watch that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, great show. Well, the one guy on that show that just bugged me the most was the brother-in-law, the DEA guy. Because just what I just read in that quote there from your book, that they'll do anything necessary. And the brother-in-law in that TV series, that's what he was doing. He didn't care about violating people's property rights. He's got to get the bad guy. That just seems to be, it's just crazy, and it's frustrating.
It is. It's so that just to be clear for any listeners, that quote from the book is, of course, from a perspective of a government official. It's not our perspective, Casey's and my perspective, that a modern government do anything necessary. That's just the way the government thinks, and it's I think it's Richard Maybury's definition of fascism, which is a government that thinks it has the right to do anything it believes is necessary, which is a very nice definition of fascism to me, and that's really how our government is behaving of late. It's not the definition of fascism that you might see in Wikipedia, which is the hyper-nationalist type of thing, but it's the economic and political culture of fascism that is represented by that notion of a government that has the right to do anything, or that feels it has the right to do anything it thinks is necessary.
Right. And I guess I just have another quote here from the book. Now, this is coming from a perspective that shows the beauty of the free market. And it says, loyalty, mutual respect, their effectiveness as a team to accomplish their common aims, their willingness, which becomes eagerness to help each other, were far more important than names. It trumped any difference in race, culture, and experience. I mean, just reading a quote like that, you think back what's happened in Charleston. You see all these white supremacists and the Antifa groups, all this sort of crazy race war stuff. But like in a free market, people don't care about race. What matters is green. And to get green, to make money, you have to engage in some sort of voluntary transaction with someone else. It's a win-win situation. So I just think most people don't see the beauty of the free market. And I just love how you guys have that in the book. Just little things like that are scattered all throughout the book. And I just love what you guys did with this book, Drug Lord.
Well, thank you. The Charlottesville stuff. I'm from Charlottesville, and our very nice town was basically the center of a little trench warfare between two groups of collectivists, and very similar groups. They were the two biggest stupid collectivist groups on the block, is the way I think of it. So you had the ones who were proud of their racism and proud of their fascism on the one side, and on the other side you have a group that denies their own fascism and denies their own racism, and they just were going at it. One proud of it and one in denial. Neither of them are deserving of respect. They're racists, and on both sides, which is racism is just this one of the many horrible forms of collectivism. And if you think about the collectivism, what's collectivism? Well, racism, socialism, fascism, nationalism, crony corporatism. They're all versions of this collectivist virus that's infected so much of America. And just like other diseases like alcoholism or drug addiction, some of the groups will admit they've got it, like the KKK and the racist group on that side, and the other group denies they have these conditions, because to accept the fact that they are themselves racist would be flying in the face of their ego. So they're just in full denial that they're racist, and yet they are. But one important note here is that there's really two definitions of racism. The progressive definition of racism is the oppression of one race by another more powerful race. Obviously, that's a very groupthink, collectivist definition. One race oppressing another race. The individual has no power to do anything in that, and it can't be cured because the individual can't stand up and do the right thing and make a difference. The other definition of race is the libertarian or individualist definition, which is discrimination based on race. And the discrimination based on race is a much broader concept. It incorporates one race oppressing another race, but it's much more broad. And so libertarians fight racism by saying that discrimination based on race is stupid. And we say, why do that? You're just hurting yourself. It's just stupid. It's as Doug would say, stupidity is a unwitting tendency to self-destruction. And racism is exactly that by the libertarian definition. But this progressive definition of one group oppressing another group, one race oppressing another race, it's insoluble. All it does is give power to the people who like to climb up to group ladders and give them an opportunity to speak. You can't cure racism by racism.
Yeah, I absolutely love how you put that. That's a great point. I guess, is there anything else you want to say with this book? I know you have the next book coming out. What's that one going to be about, and what's Charles up to there?
All right, well, so in Drug Lord, so I'll just go a little bit more deeper in Drug Lord first. So it's really an expose in fiction of the pharmaceutical, big pharma, and the terrible dysfunction of the big pharmaceutical system that we have here, which of course is an entirely crony process, with the FDA regulating roughly 19% of our gross domestic product, and in one form or another, and the revolving door in and out of FDA and the big pharmaceutical companies. It's a it takes on the patent system and how the pharmaceutical companies abuse that particular government program of granting patents. Concurrently, it is going down the side of evaluating the drug war, and because our lead character is in two careers concurrently. One is the illegal black market drug side, and one is the so-called legal drug development process. And the idea is for the reader to see that it's actually the illegal side, which is a whole lot more moral and ethical. And so it's really fun that way. But, of course, when you get the entire United States government and all of the major collectivist organizations in the country all aligned against you, you're not going to win. There's no way you can win. So he's not gonna necessarily do well in the long run in that. But he does survive, and I'll give that away. He does survive because we've got a whole bunch more books in the series, and the next one, of course, is Assassin. And Assassin is fully drafted, although we need to do some rewrites, which Doug and I are embarking on. And it'll come out next summer, and it's a fun one. It's a fun one, very fun.
Well, all these two books so far, they have been very fun, and just for instance, with Drug Lord, you're hooked by the first few pages. It's stuff already starts to get crazy. And I've written reviews for your books on Amazon, and I like to relate what you guys are doing here with what Ayn Rand did with Atlas Shrugged, because it's just a way of you're tying in philosophy, and just like what you just said there, talking about Drug Lord, how you're kind of showing the illegal side of what's going on with drugs, and the legal side with the FDA and the revolving door and all the cronyism that takes place there. So just how you do all that together with Charles Knight on both sides of it, it's just so brilliantly done. Oh man, I just loved what you guys did. Assassin, I'm sure, is just going to be, you're going to somehow raise the bar even more, which I don't even know how that's possible, but you're going to do it. I don't doubt that. So I'm looking forward to that book. So ladies and gentlemen, you guys need to get out there. Obviously, you can go to Amazon to get this book. John, where else can you get this book?
Right now, you can get it on Kobo and iBooks and Barnes and Noble, but it's not in bookstores. We're so far staying away from the traditional publication methodologies because we seem to be doing okay on our own, and we're able to stay kind of in control of things a little bit. It's very libertarian to publish on our own.
That is good for you guys.
Not necessarily how we'll stay, but it's fun. We do need and appreciate the marketing and publicity. And Justin, your support has been fantastic throughout this from day one.
Well, thanks, John. Well, hey, I mean, as much anything I can do to help, because as I said, this book series is amazing, and more people need to read these books. They're just so well done. And I'm glad you guys decided to do this, and I'm glad there's so many more books to come. I'm glad it wasn't just a 1 or 2 book thing and you're done. I would have been not too happy about that. So, John, I thank you so much for coming on the show today. This discussion's been enlightening, and as I said, guys, please go out there, pick up your copy of Drug Lord, and if you haven't read Speculator, that's the first book. You should read that one first, then Drug Lord. Anyway, John, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, John. Have a good one. And ladies and gentlemen, this is Justin Moore signing off.